Godzilla raids again. After watching this, I wish he didn't. Yeah, you heard me. Godzilla should raid the studio for better writers. I'm sorry for being so mean right out the gate. Let's just get to the point, right? Godzilla Raids Again was a sequel to the 1954 masterpiece that was the original, and it was made in 6 months. Dear fucking lord. Look, I know Toho wanted to chase the box office success ASAP, but like, Jesus Christ, 54 came out in October, and Raids Again came out in April. It never stood a fucking chance. While the movie still did quite well commercially thanks to having Godzilla's name in the title, the movie didn't really have the staying power of the original. Godzilla Raids Again is a movie that nobody remembers except for when it's to mention how nobody remembers it. It is the black sheep of the Godzilla series. Think like the Drakengard 2 or the Macross 2. But that doesn't mean it was completely insignificant. You see, the movie's original director, Ishiro Honda, was busy working on his other film, Love Tide and Half Human. So the sequel was instead handed to Motoyoshi Oda, who had experience on other Toho projects, such as The Invisible Man and Lady from Hell. He is a talented director who, despite being dealt the worst fucking hand of all time, one that could completely destroy his career if he fails, he and his team came up with one stupidly simple yet effective idea that would define the franchise for pretty much the rest of its life. What if there was, like, another monster and Godzilla fought it? Boom, meet Anguirus, the mutated Ankylosaurus who would become the first of dozens of Godzilla enemies for years to come. I think he's a neat little guy. Even though Honda didn't return to the directorial role, a lot of other people involved in 54 did, such as Eiji Tsuburaya as the special effects director, Tomoyuki Tanaka as the producer, and Haruo Nakajima stepping back into a Godzilla suit, despite the last one being like a fucking concrete death chamber, but we'll get to that a bit later. Katsumi Tezuka was a newcomer who did work for Toho before, but this time he was stepping into the role of Anguirus, with the quadrupedal design requiring Tezuka to sorta just crawl around on the floor. But it paid off, cause like I said before, the movie was far from a failure commercially. It grossed over 20 million USD, which isn't as big as the last film, but it was still pretty commendable. I mean, clearly not commendable enough though, cause the series still went on ice for almost a decade after this one, uh-oh. But even if it did well financially, this movie does not have the legacy of the original. It was something people saw were like, that was fine, and then never thought about again. And to find out why that was, let's just start talking about the movie. Godzilla Raids Again opens up with our lead characters, Shiochi Tsukioka and Koji Kobayashi, flying over the ocean looking for schools of scrumdiddlyumptious fish. Why the fuck did I write that in the script? Even though his name is Koji, Kobayashi is actually more like a boss clone. He's the wacky comedic relief to this trio of main guy and girl. Said girl being Hidemi Yajima, the daughter of Marine Fisheries president, who has the hots for Tsukioka while Kobayashi's crush goes unnoticed. You fucking bastards tricked me into reviewing Mazinger again! Anyways, Kobayashi's plane malfunctions, so he and Tsukioka make an emergency landing on a nearby island, where Godzilla resides. So it turns out Dr. Yamane wasn't kidding, there really is just a second Godzilla. But there's also an Anguirus. With the two locked in combat, the pilots get away and report their findings to the government, who are like, guys, we are fucked. We are so fucked that to display how fucked we are, we will play the entirety of the last movie's rampage scene. This is like the most shameless form of padding I've ever seen. This happened only 6 months ago, like in universe as well. I don't think people need this big recap on the fact a giant radioactive dinosaur is dangerous. There's not even any audio, and also, who the fuck was recording and getting these elaborate ass shots in universe? This is like the type of shit Peter Parker pulls and is like, oh, I guess I just got lucky. There's like one radiation-proof cameraman who could stop Godzilla and they aren't utilizing him. Anyways, with no more oxygen destroyer to save the day, they decide to exploit Godzilla's new weakness, light. Because the light reminds him of the atomic bombs that woke him up, which, like, sure, fine, whatever, I guess that makes sense. But what about Anguirus, though? They literally come up with, like, no plans to stop that guy. They're just like, we'll get around to it. We get this admittedly cool scene of them using light bombs to try and lure Godzilla away from the shore. I think this is where the fact the movie's in black and white shines. The contrast between the night sky and the lights just looks really cool. And this would be the last Godzilla movie to be in black and white, so I guess it deserves some props for that. But looky here, some prisoners are escaping. What does this have to do with fucking anything we've seen up until this point? I don't know, but they Gmod ragdoll into a refinery and the explosion gets Godzilla's attention. And to make things worse, those flares that scared Godzilla away attracted Anguirus, cause he's not a fucking pussy who's afraid of lights. But let's be real for a sec, I think this plot setup was way too elaborate. Like, instead of doing this multi-step process of Godzilla is scared off, random criminals blow up the refinery, Anguirus comes, Godzilla comes back, we could have just had Anguirus blow up the refinery. That's what these kaiju are known to do. But they just wanted a cool police chase scene with these wacky criminals. I'm onto your fucking game, Godzilla Raids Again, writers. You guys are trying to hit the college essay word count. Hello, Starlighters, I'm Starlight. And I'm Needle Rats. And welcome back to Random Facts and Trivia we couldn't quite fit into the main video. And I guess our budget went up because we have another special guest. Give a round of applause to Anguirus.
Hey guys, it's me, Anguirus. I'm like a dinosaur and shit.
So Anguirus, why don't you tell us about your outing in America?
Yeah, I'm Anguirus. So those filthy, dirty Americans thought that me and my buddy Godzilla, well, ex-buddy, would sell poorly in America. They thought an original movie would sell more. So they dubbed our movie and they changed Godzilla's name to Gigantus and tried passing it off as an original movie and like changed the lore and shit, so we were like volcano monsters. It became lost media for a while, but then it wasn't, and they sent along Godzilla in Anguirus suits to record new footage, but they ended up getting lost, and they're still lost to this day, so maybe there's a guy like chilling with rotting Godzilla and Anguirus suits in his basement.
That sounds downright sugoi, but why did you say ex-friend?
Let me tell you something, kid. That Godzilla is a fucking narcissist. When Godzilla Raids Again came out, you know, it was hard for me. I was getting a lot of death threats. People were threatening my family, saying they're gonna cut our necks, because they said, hey, the movie's called Godzilla Raids Again. Why is there a guy who's not Godzilla? They all made fun of me for dying so soon into the movie, and I didn't write the script. I didn't make the movie. I was just doing my job. When that was happening, when my wife was getting threats in the mailbox, I asked Godzilla, can you say something? Can you tame your fans? And he didn't. He didn't do anything. I carried that movie. I put my heart into it. And he couldn't even put my name in the title. I mean, Godzilla versus Mothra, Godzilla versus Megalon. Everyone else gets their name. What is mine? It's not Godzilla versus Anguirus, it's Godzilla Raids Again.
I'm so sorry, I didn't realize things were that messy.
Yeah, you didn't realize things were that messy because you're a fucking YouTuber.
That seemed uncalled for.
Don't cut yourself, you emo bitch.
Whoa, dude, that is not okay. I mean, whoa.
You get to sit on your ass all day, making fun of other people's work, calling our movie garbage. What the fuck do you do? What the fuck do you create?
I mean, I made Macross.
You made Macross? You didn't make fucking Macross, Calmo, or you made Macross? You made fucking reviews that break like, 1,000 views. I made fucking 20 million. I did, not Godzilla.
I'm starting to think this is why Godzilla doesn't really want to associate with you anymore.
Well, I'm starting to think Godzilla's a fucking sellout hack. Alright, he was Japanese monster, and here he is mingling with that fucking American monkey.
Dude, this is just, you gotta go, man.
Ooh, I gotta go. I don't even want to fucking be here, okay? I'll go, you fucking tranny.
That is... Oh my god, I'm sorry you had to hear that, folks. Let's just end the segment. We won't see him again, guys. That's okay. We won't see him again. Well, folks, here we are, the long-awaited Kaiju Showdown, the first of many, and it's pretty alright. I feel like Oda was having a little too much fun with the fast-forward effect. They're kind of moving around like Smiling Friends characters. Like, the intent was to make them more like ravenous beasts, but when you overdo it, you lose a lot of the weight and more deliberate movement of the original movie's Rampage. The illusion just kind of gets shattered at points, and I see them for the freaking phony monsters they are. Godzilla's not real, that's just a guy in a costume. And speaking of costumes, I guess I should talk about that. I mean, Anguirus looks great, of course, it's his debut, so we have nothing else to really go off of. He looks like a cool guy. But Godzilla's costume in this movie is, interesting. You see, because the last one was like a complete death chamber, they made this one a lot easier to move around in, which is a good thing. I am not a fan of torturing our actors, but also he looks a lot less intimidating. He looks a little goofy. And I know some people might mention, ooh, this is the Godzilla used in the ARG series, and like, okay, cool. I don't really care about ARGs and creepypastas, but I have to mention it, because if I don't, someone else will. Anyways, yeah, it's a cool fight. I think the Osaka Castle specifically is a really cool set piece. And in a shocking twist, Anguirus fucking dies. Like, this isn't the final battle of the movie, he just dies halfway through the movie. Godzilla just violently rips into his neck and kills him. It's pretty graphic, and it gets you a little scared, like, oh no, if Anguirus couldn't beat Godzilla, then how are we gonna do it? But despite that, I couldn't really feel the impact of Osaka being destroyed like you could in the prior film. I understand them not wanting to retread things too much, but those scenes of the humans trying to recuperate after they lost everything were some of my favorite, and this movie removed them without giving anything to really compensate because the main characters are boring as hell. Notice how I haven't really been talking about them much? They literally are just main guy, girl, and the goofy one. Anyways, they relocate to Hokkaido while learning at a company party that, yup, Godzilla's in the ocean doing bad things.
Does bad things, guy.
And like, this is what I'm saying. Godzilla's out there. Why are we having a party with old college friends like it's now Neko Sugar Girls? You people are way too chill about this. There's no oxygen destroyer to save you. You're cooked. Anyways, Tsukioka follows the report and finds Godzilla chilling on this icy island and is like, we could use this ice to cause an avalanche that traps Godzilla. You know, Godzilla, the guy whose breath can melt steel beams, but I don't know why he couldn't just melt the ice. For my own sanity, I'll just say because he's a reptile who's cold-blooded, but then that makes you wonder why he'd go to an icy island to begin with, but who fucking cares, man? This whole final sequence goes on for way too long, and none of it is interesting. Like, we see them shoot ice for a while, Tsukioka's like, I'm gonna go get backup. And then, when Godzilla's about to leave the island, Kobayashi dive bomb kills himself, which is like, sad, I guess. Like, I think the actors had chemistry, they did a good job with what they were given, but they weren't given a whole lot. I felt nothing for these guys. Like, Hidemi looks at his diary he left behind and learns about his crush on her, which, that's sad, I don't know, I had to look up these characters' names while writing this script, and I've seen this movie twice. Maybe I have a bad memory, or maybe these guys are just that forgettable, I don't know. Anyways, yeah, so Tsukioka goes back, and this scene of the jets trying to bury Godzilla with ice goes on for way too long. This is not my idea of an exciting kaiju movie finale. It's just Godzilla getting slowly buried with ice cubes for like a good 10 minutes straight. But yeah, Godzilla is successfully buried, and I guess he's just gonna take a nap until the big monkey comes, but we aren't there just yet, so good night, Godzilla. And that was Godzilla Raids Again. Was it one of the worst Godzilla movies like some people say it is? Well, I guess through like process of elimination, it's definitely lower down on the totem pole, but I wouldn't say it's terrible. Like, The plot may be padded and the characters may be completely dry, but I don't think it ever did anything to outright offend me. It's a movie that had me kind of bored, not mad, which I guess you could say is worse in its own way, but look, they got tasked to make a movie in 6 months, and they pumped out an inoffensive 5 out of 10, which is pretty damn impressive. It could have been a whole lot worse. And despite everything, this is a very important film, not just to Godzilla, but to the film industry as a whole. Say what you will, but the simple idea of Godzilla fights another monster laid the groundwork for what would literally become the longest running film franchise ever. I think it might deserve some roses just for that, 90 years of watching them shoot ice be damned. Now, would I recommend you watch Godzilla Raids again? Not really. I mean, if you're a Godzilla fan with 80 minutes to spare, then I guess. But it's not one of those ones that everyone must see like the original was. Its biggest offense was just being released after the original and having to carry those expectations. But if you look at it as its own thing, it's just sorta whatever. Just like Get a Robo G is probably about to be, good fucking lord, but we only have 39 episodes before Grandizer. I'm almost free, guys, I'm almost free!
Godzilla-san, Godzilla.